Welcome, my lovely viewer. Thank you for clicking on my video. Today we're going to go over the inferiority complex, right? It's going to be divided into two sections, right? Two sections. The first section is going to be all the basic information that you need to know about this inferiority complex. Then the second part, the second section is going to be, some ways that you can overcome this inferiority complex that you may have. Right now, at this moment, my lovely viewer, if you could please click the like button and maybe even subscribe, it's going to help this channel grow, and it's going to help the YouTube algorithm find my videos and my channel, and hopefully, recommend it and help it grow. And if you did that right now, thank you very much. Now, let's get into the video, right? The first section, basic information and definition, what it is, where it come from, who made it up, right? Well, according to Merriam-Webster, right, the dictionary, a inferiority complex is, right, I'll put it up here for you to see it, right? It is an acute sense of personal inferiority, often resulting in timidity or through overcompensation and exaggerated aggressiveness, right? Basically, or my personal definition, I should say, is that an inferiority complex is something that a person, a trait that a person has and thinks that because of that they cannot fulfill their true self, or they just feel inferior to most, if not all, people, right? To me, that's what it is. It's just this one trait that they feel extremely insecure and they just cannot get over it. Now, who made this up? Well, Mr. AA from A, right? Now, who is this AAA, right? Well, okay, AA is going to be Alfred Adler from Austria, right? So this is the guy who founded this concept. He was a psychotherapist from Austria, of course, and he was the founder of individual psychology. So he did an amazing thing for the world in terms of psychology, right? Now, he made this up. In his, inferiority complex, there are two types: primary and secondary. Primary results from or originates from your childhood, right? Your upbringing and how you were treated. The secondary extends from your adult life and, outcomes from there. Now, let's get into the causes of this inferiority complex, right? Well, simply, again, if it's primary, it's usually from your childhood, and probably you were repeatedly or people kept saying that you were a loser, or that you were just bad, or just something that really made you feel inferior. In fact, just failing to meet expectations probably could cause this in your childhood, right? It extends now into your person. Now, for the secondary inferiority complex, it can come from you having unrealistic goals and not being able to reach them, or maybe having semi-reasonable goals, but then you just cannot seem to attain them, and then therefore you feel inferior, right? Now, there are some ways that it comes from discrimination in terms of your gender, race, all these things, height, weight, any certain characteristics that can be discriminated against you, right? And you feel that the world is extremely unjust because you have this characteristic as yourself. Now, that is going to be, the causes. For the symptoms or some signs of this inferiority complex, there are extensive lists, but I'm gonna name a few, right? Some of these signs are going to be, maybe tendencies to be a perfectionist, tendencies to overcompensate, right? Short man syndrome, whatever they call it. Some of the things are going to be like having the need to be flattered, having that need to prove yourself to others, having too much sensitivity of what others think about you, right? Those are some common causes, right? Now, there's a whole lot more list to that, but those are some of the basic signs and symptoms of this inferiority complex, right? Overall, it comes down to you feeling inferior, and because if you feel that, it just means it's bad. Now, Mr. Adler here or doctor, he thought that actually feeling inferior was a healthy part of a mind, right? Now, it may sound a little ironic, contradicting, but here's the reasoning, right? So, in your life, I am sure or you felt inferior because I don't know, you were not really good at playing basketball, right? And you felt extremely inferior because of that. Now, Adler says that because of that, your feeling of inferiority, that motivated you to actually start, working on your jump shot, working on your free throws, working on your three pointers, working on layups, everything, like even defense, right? Adler says that because you felt inferior, then you saw the motivation or you saw the need to actually become a better person because you felt inferior. And that is part of a healthy individual, a healthy mind, right? If you are able to grow as a person, that is good. Now, if you felt inferior at the beginning, well, that's what just kind of happens. Now, at this point is where inferiority complex comes in, right? When you feel inferior because you just have this trait, and you inherently, because you have this trait, right, you inherently feel that you're inferior to others, right? It may sound a little complicated, but basically it's only bad to feel inferior if it's extremely overwhelming, as if you just cannot change it. And because you cannot change it, you feel that everything in your life is ruined, right? Now, that is not healthy, right? Because that now we're talking in absolutes, and absolutes are just dangerous, right? And that basically kind of sums it up, right? Just understand that feeling inferior does not mean it's necessarily bad. It just means it could be a sign of growth. But being um, overwhelmingly, overwhelmingly feeling of inferiority that just makes you sad, depressed, that just, all these bad things, then that comes to be a bad thing, right? All right, now that was the foundation. Now let's get into the second section, right? The second section is going to be divided into four or three parts, right? First part is going to be, you need to understand what is your insecurity. What is it that you feel inferior to others, right? You need to understand where it comes from, maybe who it comes from, right? It could be your childhood, it could be in your adult life, right? Me personally, I know that I had this type of inferiority complex because of my height. I am 5'6.5", but throughout my life, I love basketball. But because of my height, I felt, I just could not be a really good player. That is not true though, right? That is just not true, because there's many players who I knew at the time, or came to meet, that they were actually maybe 5'5", 5'4", and they were point guards. They were extremely good at making shots, and I was amazed, and I got inspired, right? There are some people in the NBA doing this, right? So ultimately, I was just limiting myself, and so that's how I got over it, right? Just accepting who I was personally, right? But it could be, maybe you have a large chin, maybe you're bald, maybe you have a lazy eye or something, and because of that, you think that, because you have this, you're just inferior to others, no matter what, right? Now, you have to change this mentality coming from the first part, right? You have to be very aware from your absolutes, right? If you think that only if this, then my life would be happy. Only if this, then I would not feel sad. Only if this, people would love me. You have to stop thinking that way. Why? Because it is not real. Even if you have all these things, you're still human, and there's still flaws, and you're still not going to be perfect. People are not going to like you, even if you're this awesome, great person, right? That is just the truth, and self-fulfillment only comes from you, and not really what you have. It's more like your attitude in life, right? Now, you have to be aware of absolutes, right? And you have to kind of change them and get past them, right? I understand maybe it's just feeling inferior, and you have to work on something, which is, a room for growth, and that is perfectly fine, right? So just focus on your strengths, focus on your, passion. Focus on the things that make you happy, right? Focus on those things and make sure that you put whatever you feel inferior to good use. If not, just, accept it and move on. Now, the second thing is going to be about opinions of others. If you're extremely sensitive to criticism, it may be a sign that you're, extremely, or you have this inferiority complex. Now, how do you get around it? Well, you just have to understand that the opinions of others, although, some are right, some are wrong, they're still opinions. Some opinions come from, some truths in life, some come from erroneous, some comes from, trying to be deceitful, be hurtful. You just have to understand where these opinions are coming from. But ultimately, you have to understand that opinions are just opinions, and ultimately, you decide what to do in your life, and you decide who you are in life, right? Up to a limit, of course. Now, that is you have to focus on the good things and strengths, right? You were dealt a card, in life, basically, of skills and all these things. Now, you could trade some things to improve your game, but ultimately, the cards were dealt, and you have to make the best with them, right? So just remember that. Now, the third thing is going to be just a bunch of things wrapped up together, right? You have to understand your confidence, your treatment to yourself, and finally, understanding what you can and cannot control, right? So let's start with confidence. Confidence, you have to build up your confidence, right? By that, what I mean is whatever skills you have, even if they're mediocre, if you work on them, you can actually become really good at something, right? And I mean this for everyone. Everyone has a certain, little thing, little skill that they're able to just really practice it, exploit it, and become really good at it. And that's what will bring you this confidence in yourself. And rather than think that because you have this inferiority complex that you're not going to be good, or you're not going to be successful, right? A chef could be bald, but he could probably be the best chef out there, right? So just because he's bald does not mean he's not an extremely competitive chef. So just keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind and relative to you. All right, now the following thing is going to be how you treat yourself, right? So be aware on how you treat yourself and how you perceive yourself, right? Understand that these negative thoughts that you have in mind about yourself, constantly telling yourself that you're a loser, or that you're just inferior to others, is just not going to be constructive, but rather destructive, right? So you have to understand that engaging in these types of loops, these types of thoughts, is not going to help you at all, right? It's not going to make you grow as a person. Rather, it's going to destroy you as a person. So you have to really change that and go into constructive criticism at best, and then really use that and go forward with that. So you have to keep attention to the negative things, right? How else can you treat yourself? Well, your environment, right? People around you affect you, right? If you are surrounded by people that are just negative, most likely you're gonna be in a negative state of mind, and therefore you're gonna destroy yourself as an effect, right? Now, you have to be aware, who do you spend time with? Do you spend time with negative people or good people? Start going to the positive people. Start going to things that are positive. The things that you consume, through the web, songs. You have to make sure that they're not negative. If you constantly worry about the news, shut them out and just focus on yourself and the news that might actually affect you, rather than what's happening across the globe, right? So make sure you focus on the things that matter. Focus on the things that are gonna make you better. So rather than listening to songs like that talk about suicide, talk about all these things, like drugs, just negative things, rather change that and put it into good use, right? Put it to good use, and start listening to things about motivation, positive vibes. There's a whole playlist on Spotify if you have Spotify. So just make sure where you're consuming this media, right? Now, the last thing is going to be understanding what you can control and what you cannot, right? This is going to be a bit hard, and it's going to be a little where this gets a little icky, right? Now, there are some things in life that you can control, right? And one of these things could be your inferiority complex, right? You can change to a certain point how you look. You can change up to a certain point uh, how you're perceived by other people. You can change part of your mindsets, but there are some things you just cannot change. For example, you're limited up to a point, to your adult life for the most part, your height. Your adult life, that is your top height, right? Like it or not, that is going to be what your height is, and that is part of who you are, right? So embrace it. I say embrace that. Embrace that you're maybe extremely tall or maybe extremely short. Embrace that and use it to your advantage, right? Or rather, let that be to the side and focus on something that actually works for you, right? Do not focus on the thing that just gets you down, right? So make sure that you understand the things that you can control and the things that you cannot. Because if you focus on the things that you can't control, well, oh man, that is where you're gonna develop this inferiority complex. Because now you're gonna start thinking and building this group of lies around this, trait that you cannot control, and start to think that because of this, life is not the best. Because I don't have money, I don't have this. Because I'm poor, I'm not happy. Because I'm not attractive or something, I'm not able to live a happy life. People don't like me because of this. If only I were this, then everyone would love me. So you have to really understand that, right? Now, that is the last thing for my video. I hope you like what I made today. And my lovely viewer, thank you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a lovely day.